going going live and hold on. Good evening, boys and ghouls. Welcome to Where the Scary Things Are. I'm your host, Monster Mash Ken, and with me is my co-host, the Mistress of Darkness, the Queen of Fright, the Lady of the Night, Muse. How you doing tonight, lady?
Good. Over this power outage I was experiencing earlier in the week, and finally, I think we got everything all figured out. All the kinks worked out.
Yeah, just jiggle the wires next time, you know? You
Yep. Turn it back off, then on again.
Yeah,
See if that works.
remember the old Nintendo? You got to blow,
Yep.
smack it, blow it. I had this whole system of how to get my
Yep.
games
It's
going.
like a science. I'm
It
telling you.
is. So I got a good question for you, and it actually has just happened to you. So your internet goes out. How dependent, on a scale from 1 to 10, are you on the internet? Like, how much do you need the internet in your life?
Well, I don't need it, but now that we do the podcast, I'm kind of like, I'm missing the show, that type of thing. But other than that, no, I mean, I think just out of boredom, I think we just kind of look to it for entertainment a lot of times and something to get our mind off things and escape. So I just had to switch to different escapes. You got to pick up a book, guys, start writing, start doing different stuff, go outside, enjoy the vitamin D from the sunshine. I mean, something, not too dependent, but I really missed hanging out with you guys.
Yeah, so we'll get into that in a second. But also joining us is the man, the myth, the legend, Chris, the creature ZC from ZC Emporium for B Movies. How you doing tonight, young man?
I am doing wonderful. I am having and I hate to rub this in your faces, but I am having a wonderful summer, a wonderful 2020, and I invite you guys all the time. Come on up. I'll buy lunch, and so you never take me up on it. So, but I am doing wonderful, and it's great to be here.
All right. Yeah, well, I love the enthusiasm. Unfortunately, about 98% of the population would probably disagree with you. But I might be part of the 2%. I might be a 2%er. I don't know. I'm a very silver and black linings kind of guy. Anyway, from the depths of Florida, where everything is probably going wrong, the horror behind PromoteHorror.com is Horo. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, I am still here, still in Florida, stuck here, spreading the horror and with all the crazies. So, Chris, I would love to join you, but they don't allow people out of Florida right now, so I'm stuck.
Yeah, I can only imagine, like, hanging out with Chris. It's like every day is going to be like walking down the street, snapping, laughing. Yeah, it's good stuff, man. All right. Well, maybe Chris should move to Florida and things would be a lot better. So, yeah. So I just want to give a quick shout out to Isaac Thorne, who does our opening intro that you hear on the podcast. Definitely check his website out at isaacthorne.com. We're very excited to present another show for you guys. This is another YouTube show and podcast. Follow our YouTube channel. It's Where the Scary Things Are. Check us out on social media at Where the Scary Things Are. Just type it into the little search there. We should pop right on up. And then follow our individual accounts. We got some good stuff. Muse has always got something going on. Horror at PromoteHorror.com and Horror's Reviews always has something going on as far as what's new and what's out there. And Chris is always putting out these great tweets on reviews that he does and whatnot. We're very lucky to get to hear them live on our show. So, and then me, I just put out a bunch of bullshit about the Raiders or whatever's coming to mind, wrestling, whatever. Anyway, yeah, follow us on Twitter. You can find us on the homepage there at Where the Scary Things Are at Scary Horrorcast. So we got a really cool show tonight. We're going to be speaking to Paul Hyatt, the director of Peripheral. Let me rephrase that. We already interviewed Paul, and that was our Tuesday night show on the YouTube. But if you're listening to the podcast, you will hear it right after Chris's review of Peripheral. Really love this movie. Really awesome stuff. Yeah, definitely check this movie out if you haven't already. We'll also be doing our normal segments with Muse and her Sinister Six. See what remakes or what news is going on with horror and the horror promote horror rundown. Chris will be doing the review, as I mentioned before, and I will jump right into the beer of the week. So I got another really cool beer here. This one's called Laser Snake, and you see this, and then it's got like this really cool like laser dragon deal. This is an IPA. I definitely had to grab it because just look at this cover again. Look at how cool that is. Sorry, you guys can't really see it there. Laser Snake, 3 Floyd, IPA. Let's check it out. Ooh, yeah, that's good stuff, man. I'm getting lucky with the beers here. If you are looking for a new IPA, check out 3 Floyds. So far, 2 for 2 on good beers from 3 Floyds. So I wanted to do something different. A lot of cool movies came out this week, and I'll get to that in a second here. But I'm going to just run through what movies came out this week and the dates that they came out. So I haven't seen some of these. Maybe some of you guys have. But on July 24th, this day, 1981, a movie called Wolfen had came out. Looks really interesting. I have not seen this, but obviously the title says it alone. It's about a werewolf. July 23rd, 1999, The Haunting. This was Liam Neeson and Catherine Zeta-Jones, and what was the other gal's name in there?
Lily Taylor.
Yeah. I did see this one. Oh, and Owen Wilson was in there too, which is totally random. Also, in 1977, July 22nd, The Hills Have Eyes, the original one. We spoke about this a few shows back. Good stuff there. July 22nd as well, 2005, The Devil's Rejects. Good stuff there. I not always sold on the Rob Zombie movies. Sometimes I really like them. Sometimes they're just like, it's okay. But Devil's Rejects was, I loved it. So awesome. I want to get Chop Top Mosley on our show. Then the last one I'm going to throw out is, I did not see this one, surprisingly. Frankenstein, 1970, was not released in 1970. This was released on June 20th, 1958. So go back and check out those movies on this date. And I want to do this really quick. I'm going to try to read through this awesome article I found. So I know Killer Casey's not really able to jump on the show as much as we'd like, as she's got her own stuff going on. I really enjoyed the segment that she had with the Creepy Chronicles. So I always get these weird stories thrown at me. Check this page, check this out. So I think from now on, I'm going to kind of just find just a random, like either unsolved mystery or something silly, something crazy to talk about. So I ran across this mystery about Amy Billig, Billig. Check it out. Google the name, but it's an unsolved mystery. I'm just going to read the case to you real quick and let you guys think about what's going on here. At around 12 p.m. on March 5th, 1974, 17-year-old Amy Billig came home from school for lunch. She planned to go out with friends later and called her father, Ned, asking to borrow some money. She vanished while hitchhiking to his office. A few days later, 16-year-old twins Charles and Larry Glasser claimed to have kidnapped her and asked for $30,000 ransom, but the police discovered this was a ruse and arrested them for extortion. Investigators interviewed Amy's family, friends, and neighbors, but could find no trace of her. They did not think she had vanished voluntarily. Shortly after she vanished, her camera was found at the Wildwood exit on Florida Turnpike, of all places, Florida, and surrendered to the police. Many of his photos were overexposed, and the few decent ones had no further clue to her whereabouts. 12 days later, Amy's mother, Susan, received tips that she might have been kidnapped by a motorcycle gang called the Outlaws, Chris's old gang. Oh, gosh. And taking cross-country, she learned that a chapter of them had come through Coconut Grove at the time of Amy's disappearance. A family friend who had done legal work for the Outlaws arranged a meeting between Susan, Ned, and 2 of the gang members. Although the men claimed to have not seen Amy personally, they confirmed that other gang members have kidnapped and sold young women in the past. Surprisingly, some women called old ladies would be sold merely for a credit card or a bike. Wow. The men promised to ask other members about Amy, but they never were able to provide any information. Susan soon heard from a woman named Gina Andrew, who had been abducted by a biker gang at the age of 12. She escaped 5 years later. She claimed that she had been sold for money, motorcycles, and even leather chaps. 3 months after Amy's disappearance, Susan tracked the Outlaws to Orlando, 160 miles away. She questioned dozens of people in the area. A convenience store manager remembered seeing Amy being escorted by at least 2 bikers. The manager remembered that she always bought vegetarian vegetable soup. This was important because she had been a committed vegetarian. Susan was certain that was her. However, a year and a half would pass before Susan received another lead. On January 9th, 1976, a biker named Dave contacted her after seeing a picture of Amy in the newspaper. He claimed that he had actually owned Amy at one time. Wow. He had agreed to talk to her, but only at his house. He acted nervous while she was there, believing that they had followed. When shown a clear picture of Amy, he was certain that the girl he owned was her. He described her as quiet, like a mute. He also described her hidden scar on her body, which Susan had never divulged publicly. This made her certain that the abducted girl was Amy. Dave agreed to try and contact the person who he believed had Amy. A few weeks later, he had contacted Susan and claimed that she was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They met there and tried to search for her. In June 1976, they arrived at a tavern where they claimed Amy would be delivered to them. While there, a fight broke out and he was injured. Susan was whisked away and placed in a cab by one of the other bikers. She never saw Dave again. He did tell her attorney that Amy was in Seattle. In 1977, Susan traveled in Seattle, even though she had suffered a heart attack a few months earlier. She frequented bars, tattoo parlors, and motorcycle shops. Several people recognized photographs of Amy describing her as always quiet and like mute. However, she once again could not find her daughter. 18 months later, in the winter of 1979, an anonymous mail caller told Susan that Amy was at a remote truck stop outside of Reno, Nevada, and that desperately needed help. FBI agents learned that a biker gang had been there briefly, but there was no way to verify if Amy was with them. Years passed, and in 1992, Susan was contacted by private investigator Virginia Snyder. She and a British investigator were working on a case when they received a tip about Amy. The investigator was in a post office in Falmouth, England, when he was approached by an American biker. He said that he had a girl that he wanted to sell him. He said that she was American, from Oyster Bay, and was mute. The description seemed to match Amy. However, he left without showing a picture of her. Susan fell certain that was Amy. However, she was unable to find any trace of her. Tragically, the British investigator passed away a year later. Virginia believes that Amy is still alive if she was able to survive the first few years. However, investigators do not believe that she is alive after all this time. Susan would like to know what happened to her. Sadly, Ned died of lung cancer in 1992. To date, no trace of Amy has ever been found. Just some extra notes here. This case first aired on January 26, 1994, on America's Most Wanted. Susan wrote a book called Without a Trace, The Disappearance of Amy Billig, with Greg Aunapu in 2001. So just really quick, this is off of a wiki link of Unsolved Mysteries. I thought it was kind of creepy because not so long ago we were talking about missing persons on something we were working on, and it's scary because I always put myself in that situation. Like if you get so close to finding somebody that's lost or whatnot, and you never stop looking and you never give up on the people you love. So yeah, very scary stuff. Sorry to be a Debbie Downer on our show, but I thought that was kind of interesting, give you something to think about, and just to hug your loved ones a little tighter. All right, well, let's get on over to Muse and the Sinister Six.
Okay, so we were we're going to be talking about the movie Peripheral here in a little bit. Chris is going to give us his review, and it's centering around a female author, a very popular female author. And so I thought, why not give you guys my Sinister Six best horror movies adapted from novels? Now, this was really hard for me not to make this like 99% Stephen King. But I was like, I'm going to expand my horizons. I'm going to get out of the box. And I'm going to like, they're not all, I was going to do it too. They're all going to be Stephen King. But I'm like, no, that's going to be kind of monotonous. So although I love Stephen King, and there's like a little line in the movie where I think Bobby says, everybody loves Stephen King, which I totally agree. But I'm going to swing back around to you guys after I'm done and ask you what some of your favorite novels adapted into horror movies are. So be thinking about that. I've got a few here I did not steal on purpose, just because I don't want to steal anybody's answers. So I'm going to start out with The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker. And we know that this was adapted from the novel Hellbound Heart to the movie Hellraiser. And from what I understand, it is, of course, inspired by the writer director's own novella, and naturally, the movie sticks pretty close to its text. So I have not read the Hellbound Heart. I've heard this book is so good. I aim to read it one day as well. I heard it's absolutely a must read as a horror fan, and it's just a brilliant piece of work. I love the movie, and I hear that it's very close to the book. So I'm very excited about reading that at one point. We hear a lot about books that just don't stick very close to the movies, and movies that don't stick very close to the books rather. And so it's always good when you have, kind of like sticking close to the source material, although that's not always a bad thing. And that leads me to my next, and this is my Stephen King entry, and you guys all know where I'm going with this. It's actually Dr. Sleep. That's actually one of the more recent Stephen King books I've read recently. And it's such a ridiculously good book. And they've adapted it into a movie, I think, in 2018, I believe it was. And I've not seen it yet. So I honestly, how like when you're reading a book and you get when you hear a character described and you get this mental image in your head. And I swear the antagonist in the book is Rose the Hat. And I had this mental picture of her in my mind, the way that Stephen King described her. And when I saw the trailer, this rarely ever happens. She looked pretty much just like what I imagined her to look like. So I thought that was really cool. It looks like an excellent movie. So I've heard nothing but good things about Dr. Sleep. So I definitely had to put that on there. And we all know that Dr. Sleep is a sequel to Stephen King's 1977 novel, The Shining. And we all know the story of that. However, The Shining and novel and the movie are completely different. And I don't know if this is true. I've heard rumors that Stephen King does not like the film. I do not know if this is true. Don't quote me on this. But I believe it sounds like it stemmed from creative differences from between him and Stanley Kubrick. And I can definitely see, I actually saw the movie The Shining before reading the book, and they are extremely different, all the way down to how the characters look and the way they're described in the book. They're very different. And there's a huge twist, and I'm going to spoil it for people that have not read the novel, The Shining. One of my favorite characters in the movie was the character of Dick Halloran. And he was a worker at the Overlook Hotel. He became very close with Danny because they both shared the psychic ability of The Shining. And he comes back to kind of save the day, and they kill off his character near the end of the movie pretty quickly when he gets back there. And in the book, he lives, and it actually continues on to kind of tell you a little bit of the follow-up between Dick Halloran's character and Danny and his mother, Wendy. They actually become very close and actually stay with him for a while. And he teaches Danny different things about how to better understand his psychic ability. It's really cool because I had no idea Dick Halloran lived because I had seen the movie. I went to go read the novel, and it was like, whoa, wait a minute. It was coming to the point in the book where he's coming back from Florida to the Overlook because he knows there's something wrong. Danny's sending him these psychic messages. And it was just, I'm like, okay, here it comes. They're going to kill him. And he doesn't die. And I'm like, what the hell is happening right now? And I was so excited about that. But so they're very different, and but also I love the movie and the book equally. Honestly, I love them both. And I've not seen Dr. Sleep yet, but I aim to rectify that. But the book is so good. You gotta get on the novel when you have the time, for our book readers out there. Number 3 is Jaws, and I have not read Jaws in. I think it was like in elementary school or junior high or something like that. It's been so long, and a lot of people tell me, and the book and the movie is phenomenal. It's like the shark movie to end all shark movies. There's never going to be another. People stop trying to duplicate it. I love shark movies. Don't stop making shark movies, but stop trying to make them Jaws. Like, don't stop that. Don't remake Jaws. Don't do any of that crap, because it's going to upset me. It's going to upset Horo. I know it. And so just stop, don't do it. And so, but Peter Benchley's novel is actually also very legendary. A lot of people say the movie is better than the book. I need to go back and read the book. So I really honestly remember the book scaring the hell out of me, which is what made me want to see the movie. So I was also, quite into the book. So I don't know. I may be one of the few that liked the book just as much as the movie, but a lot of people like the movie better. But I thought it was an obviously excellent book to movie adaptation. And number 4 is actually I Know What You Did Last Summer. And so I did not know this was a book, but apparently I think it was 1973, is a book by Lois Duncan. And it came out in the movie came out in 1997, and we all know it's the teen horror with all the up and coming young stars at that time: Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Freddie Prinze Jr., Ryan Felipe, and it terrified a lot of us as younger folks. But it was based on a 1973 young adult novel of the same name. The book is a little different in the respect that the four friends accidentally run over and kill a little boy on their drive back from a graduation party. And of course, they have to live with the consequences when someone turns up to avenge his death. So we all know the movie is actually a gentleman that they strike on the side of the road. They don't see him. They're whipping around the corners. They've been drinking. They've been partying, and they run this guy down. And of course, the story unfolds, and all of a sudden, they're harboring this horrible secret. And of course, somebody comes back to avenge that death. And of course, we all know how that ends. But it's interesting. I would like to actually go back and read the book by Lois Duncan at some point because I had no idea it was based on an actual novel. So that was kind of neat. Number 5 is Rosemary's Baby. And this is, of course, based on the book by Ira Levin. And I actually have heard that Rosemary's Baby is one of those rare book to movie adaptations that maintains a near perfect faithfulness to the source material. So if you love the movie, you're going to enjoy Ira Levin's novel as well. So I definitely, Rosemary's Baby is in my top 5 favorite horror movies. So I definitely will be reading that for sure. And of course, last but very not least, another favorite in my top 5 is Psycho. And Psycho is actually based on the novel by Robert Bloch. And I don't know if I'm saying it right. I hope so. But of course, we know that in 1960, Alfred Hitchcock turned it into the legendary film starring Anthony Perkins and Janet Leigh. So everyone knows about notorious hotel owner Norman Bates, but have you ever read the book that started it all? I have not. And I actually know people that have read it say I have to read it. If I love the movie, then I am going to love the book. So I'm going to swing back around to you guys, and I am going to start with Chris because he is the writer of the bunch of us, and I am excited to hear what his choices are.
Okay, I'm surprised you didn't mention The Exorcist.
I did that. I did not on purpose because
Okay.
I was going to leave it. I was going to leave
Too
it for
obvious.
you guys. I
Too
did not.
obvious.
I was like, I wanted to, and I was like, I'm leaving it off on purpose.
All right. Well, going back to Ira Levin, he wrote another horrific book, which became a horrific movie, The Boys from Brazil. Movie
yes.
starred Gregory Peck and Laurence Olivier, and it is terrifying, not only in what unfolds on the screen, but the thought of what could happen. And I gotta mention a pair of books, Mary Shelley and Bram Stoker, Dracula and Frankenstein. I know we're going back almost 100 years.
They're classics. You do it.
Right.
You do it.
Yeah.
Deserves to be mentioned. Definitely,
Exactly.
for sure.
So those are timeless classics.
Yes.
And I'm going to leave the rest for Haru and Ken, because I could go on and on. I'm looking at the bookshelf over there.
Go ahead, Horo. Go first.
Okay, so this is not my category because I don't read. So yeah, a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is based on this and this is based on that." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, that's cool. I just don't have no time to read. I would love to read." Obviously, a big Stephen King movie fan. But I guess I'll mention one movie that was kind of interesting, a recent movie, and it's actually a little bit of a twist here because it's the name of the movie is Shirley, and it's based on author Shirley Jackson, and it just recently came out, and it's on demand still, I believe, and this stars Elizabeth Moss, and she basically plays Shirley Jackson, and it's not a bio, it's not straight documentary on her life. But she does play her in this movie, and it has its own vibe, and it kind of goes in a crazy direction, slow burner. So, it's not really adapted, but about an author. And then another one that was recently done, The Turning, which I believe came out at either the beginning of this year or the end of last year. I don't remember exactly. But apparently that was based on a book, and I like to try to bring recent stuff. I didn't totally care for the movie. I know a lot of people complained that the ending didn't really match with the book. So for those who read it, they know about it. But I'm surprised that there's a lot of movies out there that I had no idea were based on books. Shows how much I know. So since I don't know anything, I'm throwing it back to Ken.
I'm with you because there was a few. I'm like, wait a minute. I Know What You Did Last Summer. I had no clue. I was like, what? So that was crazy. Okay, Ken.
No, I didn't know that either. I was like, what? Yeah, and you nailed it. Like if they brought all these teen actors together in that time, and they put a, I guess a somewhat decent movie out. Yeah, I have a couple. Exorcist is obviously one of. I always recommend people to watch Exorcist because, or I'm sorry, to read Exorcist because Blatty is it's terrifying. It is terrifying, and I think it's almost as scary as the movie. I did the audio book, but it's terrible. He does the audio for it and stuff, and it's horrifying. So I'll name a couple of them. Helter Skelter was
Oh
a book I got
yeah.
through, and it's not necessarily a movie, but the just of what happened, the murders, and it talks about all this stuff. And I know they Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out, and it kind of very, very, very thinly kind of tiptoes on some of that, but then it just takes this big left turn, which actually I didn't mind too much. But Helter Skelter was really scary to me because I was introduced to that at a very young age. My stepmother, was really into that and the story and stuff like that, and yeah, just I don't know. Anyway, but another one we always talk about is I Am Legend. That was one that I loved. The movie sucked balls, but the book was great. I didn't watch Omega Man. I think, and what was the other one, Z, or I can't remember the other movie that they had made, but I didn't watch any of the other ones besides I Am Legend. But the book was great. I loved it. I thought they should have just did that. And then one that's kind of off the wall that is not necessarily horror, but it did have horror elements, and it is my favorite book all time, and I highly recommend that every single person reads this book, and that is Ready Player One. Ready Player One, they do add a little bit. They talk a little bit about the Stephen King stuff and whatnot, and they did the movie. The book is a lot different than the movie that had came out. I think they modernized it, but they had some really cool parts. They had like the Stephen King. The Shining played a really big role in the movie. The book, God, I can't remember if they did as much. They did some parts of it, but anyway, so check that out. This is some good stuff. That's a really good topic, Muse. I'm kind of with horror. Like, I don't have a lot of time to read books, but when I do, I mean, I'll read a book all the way through if I like it a lot, and that's rare because it has to keep my attention. But I do a lot of Audible books, but that's a really good subject.
So you mentioned The Exorcist really fast, and I went out and bought the Exorcist novel, and I remember, and
Ooh.
I was going to start reading it, but I remember a challenge you threw down to me a while ago, and that was if I read The Exorcist, you would read The Amityville Horror by Jay Anson, which was one of my honorable mentions. So I have bought The Exorcist, so the gauntlet has been thrown, the gauntlet has been laid down. So I'm sitting here waiting on you.
Wait, did you read it? You read it already?
No, I have not read it yet.
Well, then why?
I read about a page of it. Then I was
Well,
like, you know what?
well, then why are you talking to me? Then why are you talking? You know what? When you read it, then you.
No, you have to do Amityville Horror, or I ain't doing The Exorcist. It'll
Okay.
just sit there and collect dust.
All right. I will. I will download it and I will Audible book
right.
it. All right.
Okay.
Sounds good. Sounds like a deal. But yeah, good stuff overall. So let's hop on over to the 666 Promote Horror Rundown with Horo and see if he's got some like a remake or what do you got for us today, my friend?
Oh man, well, we live in crazy times, so why not talk about the crazies? Yes, we're talking about the 1973 crazies versus the 2010 version of the crazies. Obviously, this 1973 one was done by George Romero, and that is always big shoes to fill. And but we've talked about some like Wes Craven's Hills Have Eyes, so you had to fill those shoes as well. And this one kind of falls into that same element that we talked about. A remake here that is basically turns out to be an upgrade, at least in my eyes. Definitely a sign of the times that we're in now, where you can show more blood and gore. But I'll get into that in a moment. Basically, the theme here, and it kind of fits the theme around here in Florida now, is a virus here. And basically, a plane has crashed, unleashing a virus on the city. And then the military moves in and basically decides we're going to take out all these people so that the virus doesn't spread. So in a way, it is a sign of the times here. Maybe the military is taking out people for other reasons, but there is definitely virus around here. Um, so the 2010 version stars Timothy Oliphant, and he plays David. And then there's his wife Judy, and I know we talked about Danielle Panabaker from Friday the 13th last week, and I guess she's in this one as well. Um, so we're going. When I actually, this was interesting because I actually played the 1973 one, and then when it got towards the end, I actually put on the 2010 one. This is the first time I actually watched these two movies while preparing for this. Usually I just go off memory or something like that. But I had the time, so I popped in because it's been a long time since I saw the 1973 one. I think I only saw it one time. So I get to see both of these movies almost pretty much back to back. And I guess the first thing I noticed is the 1973 version is very focused on the military. Yeah, they do focus on the same characters. You know, both movies have a David and Judy, and that's who they primarily follow. But I thought the 1973 one focused a lot more on the military. There was a lot more aspects of the military, what they were doing, what they were planning, trying to find a cure. There was just a lot more from that angle than in the 2010 version. So I thought that was a interesting, different approach there. Um, Obviously, probably, Chris could probably talk about more what's going on in 1973 than me, but maybe it was good to take that angle. Maybe that was the appropriate angle to take back then. I think the 2010 version takes the angle for a better time in 2010. We're focusing on a couple of individuals and how they react to this virus and to this military coming to their town. Um, I thought, with the military, there was also a lot more gunfighting. It's just a lot of shooting scenes. One scene that I thought was really funny is the military's there, and I guess the people decide they're going to fight back. So they start running down the hill with all kinds of different objects, and I thought it was hilarious because you see one woman all the way in the back, and she's running down, and she basically has a broom, and I'm like, "What are you going to do with the broom?" And you do what you do. She starts sweeping. She starts sweeping the ground. I'm like, "What the hell is she doing?" I'm like, I don't know if they meant to put that in or that was just happening, what was going on there, or maybe she was one of the crazies and didn't know it yet. But I thought it was hilarious. You can kind of see how they cut that scene, and it seemed like they did that several times. So, but I thought it was hilarious. Whether it was supposed to be there or not, I thought it was hilarious to have her sweeping the ground. You got dead bodies on the ground, and she's just there going around. It was funny. I completely didn't expect to see that, but it was funny nonetheless. So being 1973, also this one doesn't really get too bloody and too scary. Like I said, a lot of gun shooting and not a lot of too much. There is a little bit of fighting, but it's not in the same manner as we see in the 2010 version. 2010 is definitely bloody, definitely gory. One of my favorite scenes in that movie is the scene in the bedroom where he gets stabbed in the hand, has to pull his hand out, and he stabs the woman in the neck with it, and then has to pull his hand out of that. That is very painful, very bloody, very gory, and a very exciting scene there. Another scene that I liked in that movie was the car wash scene. Kind of creepy there, suds, and you can't see out. You kind of see figures there. You don't know what they're gonna do. Obviously, a fight ensues, and then one girl goes whoop, right out the window and hung like in a heartbeat. Um, Pretty awesome scene there. I like that one too, and of course the excitement at the end, fighting for survival with a couple of crazy people there in the truck stop. So those are a couple of fun scenes in that movie. Definitely something more set in our time with the movies that we're used to seeing around that time, with the blood and the gore and how those kind of scenes play out. There is guns and there is shooting in this one as well. They definitely have that aspect in it. But this 2010 definitely gets nice and bloody and gory, much more than the 1973. And I always like that. I can't uh, go away from that. Basically, there's a little bit of difference in the opening scene. They add 2010. They add the baseball scene, which is a good way to start off the movie because it kind of sets a good tone there. And then it does kind of follow the same. Goes to the house and the crazy guy and he burns it down. So both then kind of start there. And then obviously the end. I thought the end of the 1973 one was really bizarre. with basically the guy in charge getting on that helicopter and zooming away and stripping all of his clothes. That was really weird. Obviously, the 2010 one doesn't end in that in that manner, so they picked their own ending, and obviously more driven to the character angle, where the 1973 one kind of ends with a military angle. But why not? Because there was just a lot of focus on that. So I'm hoping you guys saw this movie. I think it is a remake worth to be seen. This is probably another one that I saw the remake first and then went back and checked out the remake. So that happens from time to time, especially the further back we go, obviously. But I still think, George Romero did a good job with the 1973 one. It's probably what you would expect for that time period. But I don't know what the reaction was, obviously, during that time. So maybe Chris can touch on that. And so with that, I will throw it to Chris.
Hey, yeah, it's just George Romero, and the movie wasn't called The Crazies. It was, but originally it was codenamed Trixie. And George Romero's big theme, leading through the Johnson administration's escalating into Vietnam, was the American military corporate complex just basically stampeding over everybody's will and doing all sorts of evil things. So the military was definitely on George Romero's mind. It was a major theme of his. And I love the low budget aspect of it. In fact, I think the copy I saw originally was codenamed Trixie. Now, when you talk about a remake, I have two answers for that. No, I did not see the remake, and yes, I did see the remake. I don't know if you guys remember a very little seen movie, but a good movie. Let me give you the cast: Tim Matheson, Meg Tilly, Hume Cronin. I remember him from Cocoon. Bill Paxton. And of course, I'm talking about the movie Impulse from 1984. Same theme. Something is in the water. People drink the water in this town. Whatever makes your brain say, oh, no, I can't do that, is eliminated. And whatever your impulse is, there's nothing inside you that says, no, I even though I don't like you, I'm not going to hit you. And before you know it, the town is raving homicidal lunatics, except for Meg Tilly and Tim Matheson, and they're sort of trapped in this town. And very, very similar plot. When you're watching it, you're thinking, codename Trixie. But, I never saw the remake. I did see that opening scene, I think, on YouTube, the Little League part. Very shocking. You got 12-year-olds, and you got a gunman coming in from center field, and everybody loves the guy, and the sheriff who's same thing as in Jaws. You take this job as sheriff of this little town where nothing's going to happen, kiss of death, because guess what? That guy with the shotgun comes in from center field, and you got to blow him away in front of all the 12-year-olds playing baseball. But yeah, Impulse was a very, very similar movie from 1984. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I never saw the full remake of The Crazies.
Yeah, I was actually Horo. I'm about contributing 50% to the conversation because I didn't realize that Trixie was. The Crazies was the original. And I recently found this out. I think Amuse and I were talking about this not too long ago, but I did see The Crazies when it first came out. But I don't remember a lot of it. I remember certain scenes and whatnot. The baseball scene. I remember it was really hardcore. Timothy Oliphant was really good in it as the sheriff and whatnot. But I didn't see the original, so I can't say that it was better or worse. But I did like The Crazies. I thought it was a really good movie, and it was like oh my god, what's going to happen next and stuff like that. I remember being on the edge of my seat. But what year was that? Did you say it came out?
2010.
Yeah, so it was like 10 years ago. But yeah, I don't know if I finished it all, but I do remember watching a lot of it, if I may. So I'm going to have to sit this one out. I'm going to pass it on to Muse.
Well, unfortunately, I'm in the same boat as Ken.
Well, get out. Well, get out. Get your own boat.
Our boat is sinking. Start bailing out the water. But because I have to, unfortunately.
Never let go, Muse. Never let go.
Right. I'd be drowning, kind of like, you're freezing in this water. I'm getting the lifeboat, but nah. No, I watched the remake. I'm a huge fan of the remake. I'm a huge fan of Timothy Oliphant. Also, it's got a great supporting cast as well. I've rewatched this one so many times. I love the remake. But it's George Romero, and I need to commit to watching this because I'm a huge George Romero fan. And like I said, I'm very embarrassed to admit I've not seen the original version of The Crazies. But I sat down to watch it one day, but as usual, everybody wants to drive me crazy whenever I'm watching a movie, and they're just, yeah, I was like, forget it. I'm going to rewatch it another time, and it's never happened. So I need to track it down and watch it because I hear it's definitely a classic. So I can't compare the two. It's George Romero, so I know it's freaking legendary. So I have to watch it, but I can't really. I'm 50% on this one as well, unfortunately. So
Well, it happens.
yeah.
Like I said, I did catch it. It is on YouTube, so that's how I watched it.
Okay.
So just kind of swing over to YouTube and throw in The Crazies 1973, and you should be able to find it. I don't think it was a bootleg copy. It seemed to be okay, but whatever. I mean, that's where I watched it. I just happened to find it there. That sometimes you get lucky and then that's it. But that was actually the second time I watched it. I watched it one other time. I don't remember where or how. But when you find out that there are these remakes, sometimes you get curious and you do go back and look. It's like we talked about with The Hills Have Eyes. To me, The Hills Have Eyes, the remake was the original, because I saw that, then I found out, oh shit, there is a remake. I mean, there is an original from way back then, and let me go and investigate that on both parts 1 and 2. So that does happen. And speaking of part 2s, let's jump into the news. And something that's going to bring a smile to all of us, especially Ken, because I know he already knows for sure. But the Terrifier 2 teaser dropped today.
Yes.
What I found interesting about that is, I mean, it was a teaser, but it showed plenty. It showed lots of stuff going on there, lots of Art the Clown for a teaser. Right when it started playing, I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be a true teaser. It's going to just lead up to him, and then that's going to be it. But no, it went crazy and showed a lot. So if you are curious, or if you don't want to know, then don't watch the teaser. But if you want to know, it's there. I put it on Promote Horror, and I'll be probably spreading it all weekend long.
I gotta jump in real quick because I kind of got into a very mild tiptoed Twitter beef. Somebody put out a tweet on asking Halloween, the movie, Halloween movie, Mike Myers, or Terrifier. Unpopular opinion. I chose Terrifier just to be a dick. Obviously, I'm gonna pick Halloween, but I can't back my argument up though, and the reason why I wanted to say Terrifier is because it's something fresh, it's new, and I think it does a really good job of paying homage to some of the classic slasher films. The soundtrack is awesome. I thought Art and we got to speak to David Howard Thornton not too long ago. That was one of my favorite interviews that we've done. But I thought Terrifier was really good and creepy. I mean, obviously the acting was not stellar or anything. Jamie Lee Curtis was not in the movie, but it was good. And I mean, overall, yeah. I mean, Halloween is a classic, and all the other ones. I mean, it started, kind of tailing off a little bit for me. You make 10 of them, and then it's like, what else are you gonna do? So, yeah, I that was just it. Check it out. I loved the trailer. I watched it like 5 times, and you goddamn right, I reached out to the producers and the director. So there may or may not be something in the works. We'll see.
Well, yeah. We can have a conversation about Terrifier for forever. Just to kind of top that off, it is based. It does, the beauty of it is the first one definitely comes from indie horror, and even if you want to go to Halloween's Eve, it still has a indie horror bringing up. And I've had another conversation with people as people look for horror icons of our generation or of this, like I said, last 10, 15, 20 years. I've mentioned it. Art the Clown definitely has a good foot in the door for that if this continues. I still think he needs some work to do, but I definitely think if you're going to look for a horror icon of the future based on this time, he definitely is one of them. But with that, we'll move on. Lots to talk about the virus. So the virus basically taking out more movies here. A Quiet Place 2 is now in 2021. Antlers is in 2021, and The Conjuring is in 2021. So basically, we're getting all our horror movies wiped out. I think there's still one or two stragglers here that I guess are hoping for, but most of the major ones that are expected to be in theaters are going out the door and going to be waiting in 2021. Um, Something that also was delayed by the virus and which has now made its announcement that's coming back is The Walking Dead. We're finally going to see the finale, and that is going to be on October 4th. They also announced they're going to give us 6 extra episodes. So I guess they realized they screwed up. So by not giving us this finale and making us wait, so they're going to give us 6 extra episodes of season 10 before moving on to season 11. With that, also the Fear of the Walking Dead premiere is going to be on October 11th. And also The World Beyond, the other show that was by The Walking Dead that was supposed to return, is going to premiere right after the season finale of The Walking Dead. So I know most of you are, boo, horror, what are you talking about, Walking Dead? We don't care anymore. It's dead with the virus. But yeah, there's about 3 or 4 people out there like myself that do care. And also, they gave the opening minutes of The Walking Dead. That's out there. I put that on Promote Horror, so just to make all you mad. I also put out the trailer for Fear the Walking Dead to make you even more mad. So I will be sharing that all weekend long to keep you guys mad. With that, moving on. The Chucky TV series. Lots to talk about who's going to be the voice of that. Well, it will be Brad Dourif. So no worries there. That should be okay. So we're excited for that Chucky. We've gone through the battle of the Chucky remake and all that nonsense, but looks like the TV series is going to come out okay. Movie that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, and we got to interview some of the director and the cast. 1BR, definitely recommend that. If you haven't seen it, that is going to be on Netflix in August. That, along with another movie I recommend, We Summon the Darkness. Those are 2 titles that'll be on Netflix in August. I definitely recommend both of those. And obviously, you can go back and check out our interview from 1BR. Lots of trailers have been released. So I'm just going to go out there and throw out some of these names. Some of them have been on Promote Horror, some of them have not. There's just a ton of them. The horror news is just I mean, it's coming. I mean, there's no movies going to theaters, but the news is out of control here. So here's a couple of titles. Escape, Puzzle of Fear. Spree, The Trees Have Eyes, interesting name there. Rogue, which has Megan Fox in it. From the Depths, The Prey. Sputnik, which I think Chris might enjoy. Truth Seekers, The New Mutants, which we know it's been moved off, but they apparently put out a new trailer and clip. Arch Enemy, that's from the same person, the same director that did Daniel Isn't Real, so that should be interesting. And an exciting title here to end it off here is Don't Fuck in the Woods Part 2. Yeah, so if you weren't aware that there was a Part 1, there is, and now there is a Part 2. And so that is a great title right there. And my last recommendation, I like to end it with a recommendation, is The Rental, which is now out on demand, and Impetigore, which is on Shudder. Both movies are well worth the watch.
A good job, man. Yeah, I saw the list for Fantasia, all these movies that are coming out. One movie that's got my eye. I'm just to continue the news. So sorry, but the Oak Room, and we spoke to Chad Archibald not too long ago, and I'm hoping to get him back on it. I want to see what the Oak Room is all about. But that's one of the films that is playing at Fantasia and the Great North there. But yeah, overall exciting stuff. So many movies. Muse may or not have been in the first Don't Fuck in the Woods. It's still a mystery.
You're not supposed to tell people.
I said it was a mystery. You just admitted that it wasn't, so that's your fault.
That's my debut. Psych.
Yeah, well, let's throw it over to the policeman here with the police shirt on, to protect and to serve, Chris, the creature, and let's get into our review of Peripheral.
Peripheral, I am over 50. You guys are not. And the 2 ways to look at that, you can do the horror viewpoint of you're not going to get this, so don't even worry about it. Or you can go with my view is you wouldn't believe what you have to look forward to. But it's very important to get the perspective of somebody over 50 when we talk about Peripheral, because the first 2 minutes of the movie, a lot is thrown at you, and it is very easy to just see it as news clippings, riots, unrest, but they actually mentioned some really, really specific things. Um, and I don't know if you guys remember, but in 1979, the Shah of Iran was overthrown and replaced by another lunatic government, the Ayatollah Khomeini. And the Ayatollah Khomeini had a dictatorship over Iran for many, many years until he died, and now someone else has it. And uh, in the midst of all that, we get into the 80s, and this nobody with no talent writes a book. I don't know if you guys know who Salman Rushdie is, but he writes a book called Satanic Verses. Nobody's read it. Nobody reads it. Even people today that say they've read it, they haven't read it. You can't read it. It's like Mein Kampf. You read the first 3 pages. It's mindless drivel, and you lose interest right away. Same thing. Everyone had it on their bookshelves. Nobody read it. Kind of like John F. Kennedy's Profile in Courage. Talk about a yawner. People have it on the bookshelves. Nobody's read it. Salman Rushdie writes this book. Nobody reads except for the Ayatollah Khomeini, and he's furious. Nobody really knows why. He's mad at everything, so nobody cares. Well, Ayatollah Khomeini and his little tribunal in Iran issue a fatwa, which is, hey, if you see that guy who wrote this abomination to Islam, you have a duty to God to kill him on the spot. So now there's a warrant on Salman Rushdie's head. And this is all mentioned in the opening scenes, which you're probably going to overlook and just see the riots and the protests. And so this writer, Salman Rushdie, has to go in hiding. And there's really no world opinion supporting him, probably because anybody who read the book is probably agreeing with Ayatollah Khomeini that they wasted so much time with this book that but anyway, it made the book a bestseller, caused a lot of riots around the world, and then was forgotten. And I think Salman Rushdie ended up basically in Switzerland or somewhere inside, and I don't know. But okay, fast forward to Peripheral, present day. Bobby, a writer, good-looking writer. If I'm not mistaken, you've got one heck of a crush on her. Now, it's not surprising.
Oh, most definitely. It's the accent. Remember, I said the accent, and blonde with the accent. I melt.
I gotta change my phone so anytime it talks, it has a female British accent on it. You can do that on your phone. I don't know if you knew.
I did that too. I did that too.
Yeah. Well, Bobby has written a book, which is compared to Satanic Verses. I'm guessing Bobby's a better writer than Salman Rushdie. Unlike Salman Rushdie, more than one person read it. I think only the Ayatollah Khomeini read Salman Rushdie's book. Well, apparently the youth of the country has read the book and they're ticked. And it's easy to say, we don't know what they're ticked at, but we do. And this is why you got to look at this closely the first couple of minutes of the movie, because it's very important that now you have a context. And if you remember the title of the book, it's Bite the Hand, which begs the question, who's doing the biting and who owns the hand? And the implication is the person doing the biting is the great masses, the masses who have been forgotten, the workers. That's the implication. In the hand, the big corporate government institution that controls everything. And on the surface, it appears that she has written a book that is about to cause a revolution. No, that's not exactly what happens. She thinks it is. She's sort of an unlikely, hesitant, I don't know if you want to call it a patriot or figurehead to this pseudo-revolution that appears to be started. Well, she's, of course, sells millions of copies. And when you sell millions of copies, your publisher calls you and wants you to write another book, and you say yes. But she's done. She doesn't want to be a figurehead. She doesn't want to be somebody who's worshipped by the masses. But publishers are publishers. They say, you got to write a book. She says, well, no, I can't. Publishers say, hey, listen, you got a contract. And we know that you can't even pay your light bill. You can't even pay your electric bill. You can't pay your water bill. We'll pay those bills if you write another book. Says, well, okay, but I can't guarantee anything. That's okay. We're going to send you a software editor, little thing to help you write. Hesitantly, because this lady still does the typewriter. I mean, she's the only one in the world that still does a typewriter. Hesitantly, she accepts because the lights go out. The software arrives, the lights go back on. And it's not just software. It's not a download. It's this weird, futuristic computer. And the special effects on this thing, it's seductive. It's got these calming blue lights. It almost surrounds her. And she starts typing into it. And the software editor goes to work. And this is so cool. She realizes that things changing her story. She says, hey, my protagonist is a woman. Says, no, software editor didn't like that. It's a guy. And so they go back and forth and then, okay, fine. But the software editor is writing the book. Question is, what's going on? And she keeps getting upgrades to this. And she realizes she's not in control of her next story. It's being changed. It's being altered. There seems to be a mind with this new computer she has, and it's writing this great book that the masses are going to read, and they're expecting. Whatever gets produced in 180 days, which is the deadline, the masses are going to read it and act accordingly, almost like we're waiting for your instructions. Well, the scary thing is she's not going to be giving the instructions, and she realizes that this software editor is going to be doing it. Well, there's a lot of imagery here, and I'm not going to get into the rape scene. It's one of the most shocking rape scenes. It rivals that of The Evil Dead. It's not with a tree, but it's a technological rape scene. And we've seen that before, too, and I'm going to get to that. But what happens is, she's going back and forth with her publisher editor, a very cryptic woman. And you're getting a feeling, are these people real? Are they real human beings? Is this in her mind? Are they holograms? Nothing. I mean, this is all too weird. We won't even talk about the facelift aspect of this movie. And that's very symbolic of who these people might be. And she is plowing ahead, or I should say the software editor in the computer is pulling her ahead, and she's very hesitant. She doesn't know what she's going to do, and there's some premarital sex involved. There's a weird Amazon delivery guy. It's not really Amazon, but, there's a weird delivery guy, and guess what? She becomes pregnant. By who? We have an idea, but it really doesn't matter. And I should also mention that she's getting VHS tapes. She doesn't have a VHS player, so she doesn't listen to them until it's too late. And then she puts in the VHS tapes, and she gets a feeling of who her followers are, and maybe their level of sanity, and maybe their level of madness, and maybe a little wake-up call as to exactly what she's doing to the great unwashed masses. And there's going to be a confrontation between her and a woman named Shelley, who's symbolic of all those rioters that are just clinging onto her book and waiting for the next book. Well, the question is, if she's not in control of her story, who is? And that's where the horror comes in. In today's time, I've called this movie, Peripheral, sort of a cross between George Orwell's 1984, Big Brother, and the movie Demon Seed. And I know many of you haven't seen Demon Seed. It's on Tubi TV. It's when Julie Christie gets raped by the computer and has a half computer, half human baby at the end of it. The new breed of humanity. And is that where we're going here? Figuratively and metaphorically, one thing is happening. The demon seed part of it, but also in a more literal sense, are we as free as we think we are? Have we been manipulated to a sense where it's too late? Yeah, we can voice displeasure at times, But if they want to quash us, the man, they can quash us. Is that happening? Or is any of this happening? And that's an aspect of it. And I know, Haro, you and I talked briefly about our interpretation of the ending, and they're similar. But when you see this movie, you think, okay, that's how it ends. But you're going to realize if you think about it for the next hour or two, you're going to say, oh, well, yeah, okay, now I get it. That happened, that happened, that happened. But this is really, I think, a poignant movie. And you'll hear Paul Hyatt in a second talk more about it. But when we get co-opted as human beings, who we are, free expression, what is the natural end to that? And this is what Bobby, our writer, is played by I want to mention this Hannah Arterton, who is indeed the sister of Gemma Arterton. I don't think she's as tall as Gemma Arterton, but anyway, what happens when our free will is co-opted and manipulated? Will we even know if that happens? And these are questions all posed by Peripheral. And as scientific and as technological as this movie sounds, it's going to get real gory, and it's going to get, there are going to be some scenes you're going to be turning your head, and it's going to be bloody, and you're going to be saying, oh, I don't believe they've shown that in the movie. I haven't seen that since The Evil Dead or Demon Seed. So everyone's homework assignment is to go see Demon Seed with Fritz Weaver and Julie Christie. Read the book 1984, and this is what we have in Peripheral.
Oh, Chris, man, I did not even put Evil Dead into that, but nailed it. That scene, yeah. Whoop. Yeah, great job there. I'm interested to see what you guys thought about it. We did the interview with Paul Hyatt already, which was excellent. So you podcast listeners, you'll be able to hear that in a second here. If you're watching the YouTube channel, go back and watch the episode before this one, and you'll be able to hear the interview with Paul Hyatt. So I'm going to just jump right off to Muse, because I know she wasn't part of the interview. What did you think about the film? Did you like it?
I did. It was awesome. It was futuristic. It was weird. It had, I guess, yeah, I don't know, the technological rape scene. That was like, what, I knew it was coming too. I could just tell the vibe of the movie when she sat down, the way the machine was just kind of like pulsating and all this. I'm like, I know it's I saw it coming. And I had never seen.
No pun intended, right? No pun intended.
Right,
okay.
Right, yeah. Right. Yeah. Good play on words. I'm like, I walked into that one, but I have never seen Demon Seed. So I was like, she's pregnant now. I'm like, I'm like, this is so crazy. It was just one of those movies that just had me just wondering what the heck was going on, but I loved it. And I was waiting to see what happened next. It was really, really cool and creative. I loved the futuristic aspect of it, and it had a lot to say. It had a really interesting message, and we are becoming so dependent on technology. We really are. For it to just completely blink out, where we wouldn't even have lights on. I mean, you kind of see in the very beginning, she's just kind of she's living on scraps. She doesn't have any power. She doesn't have any food in her fridge, and she's just so dependent. And in a way, it kind of felt like a message to me that this is how we are without technology. And then technology comes to save the day, I guess you could say. And the lights go back on and everything's fine and great again. And it just kind of like made me feel that was kind of like a little bit of a hidden message that this is our lifeblood anymore. And you kind of see this black stuff she's kind of got going through her system throughout the whole thing. And it's like we're getting pumped full of all this stuff, whether it's technology, social media, cable TV, whatever you want to call it. It had a really powerful message, and I really, really dug this movie. It was really good.
No, I agree. I think the acting was great. One thing I mentioned earlier in the interview was the sounds, the music. You heard the computer thinking and in the background. And if you look at my setup, you can right now you guys just see my face. But if I was to flip the camera, I have like 3 computer screens going. And Muse, in the beginning of the show, I asked you, how dependent are you on like the internet? Yeah. And that's kind of what I was alluding to, is because she, in the beginning of the film, was like, no, I'm good with my typewriter. And I thought it was weird because they focused on the typewriter. Like, why is she using a typewriter? It makes no sense. But then it kind of grew into something more. And all of a sudden, before she knows it, her half of her quote unquote flat was a computer, artificial intelligent computer that was always thinking and always watching her. Horo, what did you think about the film? I know that you watch so many more films than we do. How did you like it?
I enjoyed this one. It was definitely had a little bit of weird. I definitely took on to that social media kind of vibe there. I thought it was interesting how he decided to use a writing software um, along with her writing and take it from an author's point of view to kind of make a message about social media because obviously, I mean, you know how involved I am with social media. So as opposed to creating a fake social media thing and going through that whole deal, he kind of did something very unique there and something you would not have thought of. But then kind of tied it into the same similarities to how obsessed we are with it, how we have to use it, how we can't get away from it. I mean, I don't even know that any of the stuff that I would be doing right now, I would be doing if there wasn't a lot of the social media. So, I could very much see myself in a kind of similar thing. I'm attached to the phone, I'm attached to tweeting, I'm attached to the Facebook and Instagram. That's how basically promote horror works. So I could very much see myself in this movie and where she's coming from. If you kind of strip that all away, yeah, I mean, I'd be dead. Promote horror would be dead. It would be kind of the whole thing all over again. So I definitely thought that was an interesting angle. I like Chris said, we both kind of had different thoughts, but agreed on some things with the ending. When a movie kind of does that and kind of leaves it open for interpretation, but as long as it doesn't just go way out into left field, but kind of gives you a couple of realistic ways that it could have gone. I like that too. It gives us something, as podcasters, reviewers, horror fans, something to talk about. How it ended, what you thought, and so forth. So I like when a film does that. But I thought it was very well done. I thought it was very interesting in the technology and how they zoomed into the computer and then kind of brought it even into her body early on. And obviously, there's one or two bizarre scenes besides the rape scene. There's one or two shocking scenes. We get into that in the interview because I had to talk about that in the interview. Just couldn't let him off on that. But definitely good stuff, and I hope everybody checks out the movie.
Yeah, definitely some really crazy scenes in there. And as Muse mentioned earlier, when when Bobby is typing and stuff, like she starts getting this black stuff on her. Her fingers start turning black. It goes up to her arm. That was terrifying. Out of all the scenes, that actually scared me the most, believe it or not, because she just went with it. Like, I would be freaking out, right? Like, what the hell is going on here? So that terrified me a little bit more than the baby scene and the rape scene and whatnot. And then also the videos that were being sent. Man, I was cringing. I was like, oh my god, did she just do that? And yeah, I love movies when I cringe. And that's a good horror movie. So check it out. Peripheral. Let's get into our interview with Paul Hyatt and check that out. So just a big thank you to Paul. Really cool guy. I really enjoyed that interview. His light, his green and red light were kind of going on and off. It was kind of cool. Like we mentioned, it was like Suspiria. Muse, you missed out on this one. You would have loved. Go back and listen to the interview. He talked about some of your favorite movies as being his favorite movies. I didn't have Deathly 13 for him. So I just kind of gave him a quick thing that we did was like it's this or that, and it was kind of fun. So definitely check it out. So yeah, let's bring it on home. Let's wrap up the show and do our shout outs. Let's start with you, Muse, since you missed the interview.
I know, I'm so bummed I missed it. I was looking at some of the different movies he was involved with, and honestly, I was so bummed because I would have had, he's done so much, and I'm just like, wow, and I had no idea he was connected with some of the films I was looking at. So definitely hope we have him on again. I would love to talk to him. I don't have any shout outs this week, actually. It's been a nutty week. This has been a hectic week. So I'm kind of all over the place, but I just want to say thanks to everybody who's tuned into the YouTube and listened into the podcast and everything, all of our listeners and all of the different folks I've met recently. I've met a lot of new people recently here on Twitter, and just want to say hi to all of them. And there's just a whole bunch, and I'm just kind of all over the place. So just going to say thanks to everybody for just hanging in there with us and still listening and everything.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe it's a good thing you weren't on the interview with Paul, because you might have asked him about his parents. But
I knew that shot was coming.
all right. So let's go over to Horo. What do you got?
Oh man, a couple of things here. One, I kind of playing off what Lori said. Thanks to all the listeners. Again, I think I said this before. I've tried to follow some of you guys that are following the podcast on Twitter. Why you're not following Promote Horror or Horror's Reviews, I don't know, but I swing over there anyway. I don't hold it against you. I followed you, so hopefully you follow me back. So it's not something I typically do with either account. I usually follow the people after they follow me. So going out and following you guys is something special. So you got that. So please, let's join up here and have all the fun together and have a nice horror community. Second thing, I mentioned this guy a couple of weeks ago, at Scrappy82, otherwise known as Mike Hathorn, who likes to dress up cosplay Leatherface. Something really cool happened to him the other day. He got a reply. He's been trying to put out himself as the next Leatherface. And Fede Alvarez, who is doing the next not Hellraiser movie, Texas Chainsaw movie, he actually responded to him. And they thought he did an awesome job, but let him know that they've already cast the part. So I don't know if that's news or not, but that may be news. So there is going to be another Texas Chainsaw, we know, but that part has been cast. But I thought it was really cool for him that he continues to put out these videos. He works really hard on it. And for Fede to come out and acknowledge him and tell him that he did a very nice job and he was doing a great job there, it's really cool. So when stuff, we're all, some of us here are creative. We're all creatives here on the podcast. But if whatever you're doing on your Twitter, Facebook, whatever, keep doing it. Do it. You never know who's going to recognize it. Someone like Fede Alvarez comes along and congratulates you on your work. That's really cool. That's something you can't replace. A lot of times, people like us, we say, shout out to this person. That who are we? Whatever. But someone who's actually out there making these movies, involved with it. You never know who's going to come along and give you a shout out. I've received some nice things by some very nice people. So continue to do that. I'm just trying to give you the encouragement to keep out there and doing it. Even if you kind of, feel like, oh, this is not happening, it's not working, just continue to do it. And look, it happened to me. I'm going to give myself my own shout out here. I've been doing a lot of reviews for Shudder. Been wondering when they were going to retweet me. They finally retweeted and quoted me for the Impetigore review that I did the other day. So I was very appreciative of that. I've been doing a lot of reviews for them and been waiting for them to do that for me. So I thank Shudder and thank Shudder for letting me see a lot of these movies. I'm very appreciative that they retweeted me, something I've been waiting for. So again, everybody out there, do what you do. It will happen. Somebody will notice you one day. And spread the horror as always.
No, you know what, Horo, you couldn't be more true on that. I mean, Muse and I started this show a tiny bit over a year ago, and then Chris joined, then you joined, and Casey joined, and we've come a long way. And we're sitting on some really big news here that we cannot wait to tell you guys about. But things happen, and you meet certain people, and you develop relationships. I mean, all of us have become really good friends, and we talk all the time, and it's through a really good community. So definitely just don't stop fighting for what you want to do. I love doing this. We're not getting paid. Chris might be getting paid, but I'm not getting paid, even though I do most of the work on the show. But it's all fun and support each other. The horror community has been awesome to us and the show. I mean, we're not gunning for like the best podcast or stardom or anything like that. But we love what we're doing, and if there's anything we can help you out to promote what you're doing as in the horror community, let us know. We will definitely give you a shout out and help you out there. So, Chris, I noticed one thing. I got to pick on you. You're not wearing your Washington Nationals shirts because I believe the Yankees beat them last night 4-1, which I did watch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the unfortunate part about the 60-game season is a lot of people forget the Nationals began last year, the year they won the World Series, at 19 wins and 31 losses. If they had played a 60-game season back then, nobody'd be talking about them. But yeah, they did lose 4-1. What have they done for us lately? Bums. But baseball aside, there is big news. First of all, I was in West Virginia again last week, and I just want to shout out to the wonderful people of Clarksburg, Bridgeport, and Fairmont, West Virginia. They're shooting a movie, and that's why I was there. I'm not in it. My daughter is, and that's the second movie she's been out there to shoot. Yeah, she's not the star, but it's a start. So they couldn't have been the nicest people. I mean, this wasn't Wrong Turn 8. This was very, very, very nice people. And I know. And the teeth look good. I think they've gotten a few orthodontists in West Virginia since. I also want to shout out Air France and the flight attendants of Air France. There's going to be big news regarding you and horror and exploitation real soon. But that'll be neat. And other than that, I just look forward to seeing you all again in a week, and this I can't tell you how much fun we have here.
Yeah, that's right. We are having a great time. As for me, I do have a special shout out. Somebody that when I was younger, I used to, we watched horror movies all the time, and it was part of our childhood. But my little brother, my youngest brother, Justin, he gave me some really cool news the other day, and he texted me a picture of Rosemary's Baby, the cover, right? And then after that, he texted me another horror movie of somebody with a baby. And then another one of that, he texted me another horror. So he was announcing that he was going to be a father. So this might be really horror for the rest of the human race if my brother's producing offspring. Or it might be really good. So, yeah, spawns of Satan. But, Justin, I love you dearly. You're a better man than I will ever dream to be. And I know you're going to be just a wonderful father. And I can't tell you how proud I am of you. So just a special shout out to my little brother, Justin, Michael Rizza, one of the true horror fans. I wish this guy would do his own podcast because he would put a lot of us to shame. He's just awesome. So congratulations to you and your fiance. Yeah, treat that kid right, man. Show him the horror films early. There's no early age. Anyway, I'm Monster Mash Ken, my co-host. Thank you so much, Chris, Horo, and Muse. Until next week, keep it scary, my friends. See you next time.